Hello everyone! Ranking of all Harry Potter games with the help of my Stasucritic scoring system, details in the pinned comment, continues with a new set of tie-ins based on the Half-Blood Prince movie. Order of the Phoenix games were less disappointing than Goblet of Fire ones, but didn't bring the video game franchise fully back on track. In this video we will see if the Half-Blood Prince titles will finish the job. There are times when a flawed but very fascinating game gets a sequel which, instead of advancing things in the same general direction, takes the gameplay foundation, puts it onto a different path while improving the overall quality, but at the expense of everything that made the original interesting. This is one of those times. Developed by EA UK, but this time rebranded as EA Bright Light, the mainline Half-Blood Prince might seem like it's an expansion pack to the Order of the Phoenix. The core mechanics are the same with a number of tweaks, and the Hogwarts map is taken from the previous game as well, with some areas added and some removed. This is Order of the Phoenix with different content, right? Well, far from that. Despite the surface level similarities, Half-Blood Prince is actually quite nothing like Order of the Phoenix. The previous game was a slower-paced sandbox ultimately focused on exploration and discovery with multiple goals available to you at the same time. But it seems that Half-Blood Prince took the feedback about the predecessor's repetitive gameplay very close to heart and streamlined the hell out of it. With only one main goal available at a time, it sends you from one location to the next to participate in one of 4 possible activities: potions, dueling, Quidditch, or a unique little set piece. No longer do you need to choose a waypoint with the Marauder's map. Just press on the select button will call upon Nearly Headless Sneak, who will show the path to your goal while hinting at collectible crests that you can get on your way. And these crests are received through small, quick activities, like throwing an object at one to make it fall down. There are also mini-crests, which you get by casting little spells on objects with an aura or jumping at corridor tapestries in succession. Also, there will be collectibles that wouldn't make you stop while moving towards the next task. Half-Blood Prince even introduces a sprint button, so you could get to the destination even faster if you desire so. The philosophical differences continue with dueling. Group battles in the Order of the Phoenix did feel chaotic, but Half-Blood Prince not only restricts all duels to one-on-one fights, which seems like a reasonable change, but also makes combat much more fast-paced. Your basic offensive spell Stupefy is now one stick flick away, and you can keep casting it like you're firing a machine gun. To compensate for this increased pace, there are dodge buttons that allow you to quickly get out of the way. Disabling spells like Expelliarmus and Levicorpus are incredibly effective if they manage to hit, which allows to get even more Stupefies in. You might think that in the local multiplayer component, which is not available in the PC version, duels would become a bit more strategic. But no, once again it's about firing and avoiding each other's Stupefies that are cast at a pretty insane rate, while trying to find an opening to disable the other character so you could get a couple more hits in. It's fun, but also shallow. I should note that the potion minigame is really good, and it's quite fitting that with analog spellcasting, potion brewing is analog too. You have to shake bottles, stir the cauldron, stuff like that, and there is a very healthy sense of progression with potions becoming more challenging to make the farther you're into the game. There's also a really dynamic soundtrack that changes with your actions. In general, the music in this game is amazing. Sometimes I would even duel not effectively on purpose, just so I could listen to more of it. So good. That being said, a lot of the things that made Order of the Phoenix really immersive are missing. There's far less world building and Easter eggs, fewer students on the grounds, the sound design is not as impressive, not a lot of chatter in the background. In the previous game you could really feel the relationships between various students, but here the narrative is mostly focused on recreating the plot of the movie at the speed of an express train. All the important story beats are present, but some of the poignant emotional moments lose absolutely all their touch due to pretty truncated writing. After all, one would need to get to the next activity as soon as possible. And as you can see in the aesthetics department, the game definitely is a step forward in some aspects, but also 2 steps back. Issues from the previous game have been fixed. Characters can move their eyes, they utilize body language in conversations, the lip sync is much better. But then the hair of some characters tends to look like an alien being, ropes stick out like a sore thumb, the dueling animations look incredibly weird on women, and some people at times forget to open their mouths while talking. The voice acting is also pretty inconsistent. Characters like Snape sound outright bored.
You dare use my own spells against me, Potter? Yes, I'm the Half-Blood Prince.
All that being said, the game still tries to enhance the atmosphere when possible, like when we play as Ron under the influence of Love Potion, collectible mini-crests transform into hearts. Or when Harry drinks Felix Felicis, he literally can't fail at dueling or brewing potions. There are also some pretty cool twists on existing gameplay mechanics, like when the potion brewing is repurposed into making cocktails for a party. But all those are also just skins on what is ultimately a game that lacks depth. Outside of the potions part, Half-Blood Prince is pretty shallow, but it's also a blast. The thing is, as much as I pity that instead of advancing the Order of the Phoenix direction into something more wholesome gameplay-wise, Half-Blood Prince just strips out all the conceptually interesting parts to barrage you with a variety of activities before you get bored, I can't deny that it works. I've had a bunch of fun and I wouldn't even mind replaying the game knowing all this. So Half-Blood Prince is going to get a Statocritic rating of 75. It's a polished enough, unassuming, fun game, and there is nothing wrong with that as long as you know what to expect. In a weird twist of fate, if the console Half-Blood Prince was a dumbed-down version of the Order of the Phoenix experience, the handheld Half-Blood Prince developed by EA Bright Light is an expansion and improvement of the previous handheld title. It's still essentially a collection of fetch quests and minigames, but instead of being completed in a linear fashion, there's a lot of tasks that you can do at the same time while collecting a bunch of stuff on the way and trading for resources with other students. Minigames in the DS Order of the Phoenix tried to be advanced, but ultimately fell flat and were boring. Half-Blood Prince doesn't bother with depth, but it balances it out with action. Dueling is a good example. There is no variety of spells to choose from, it's just a shoot and defend kind of thing and eventually one person wins. Even more physics-based activities like gobstones are much more fast-paced in nature, which makes them more enjoyable to complete than in the previous title. Also, from a narrative perspective, this is actually a case where the handheld game flows better than the console one, as it adapts more story moments, and also there's a bunch of optional student conversations that make the world feel a bit deeper. That being said, the added freedom is not necessarily as big of an advantage as one would expect. The console version of Half-Blood Prince in many ways worked because the pacing was fully controlled by the developers, which means they could switch up activities before you get bored. But in the handheld version, because you have a bunch of choices and also optional tasks, you have more time to think, and there is less things to distract you from how shallow most of the things you're doing are. And for me, this definitely has led to a much less impactful and not as engaging experience, hence the Statocritic rating of 59. It might still be enjoyable as an unassuming handheld game you take out of your pocket from time to time, but if that's enough, depends on you and your tastes. Like with other Java games, this title by EA Mobile has several main variants. There are versions for more powerful phones as well as cut-down versions for weaker ones, but ultimately they all are based on the same set of designs, and there's too many variations to track because even seemingly similar versions can also have differences, so we're taking a look only at the fullest one. And like other Half-Blood Prince titles, this is essentially a collection of fetch quests and minigame activities. So the question is, are these activities fun? For me, they were certainly fun enough to beat the game once, though I don't think I will ever return to it. But that being said, I do appreciate how this mobile title tries to add immersion to the overall experience. For example, seasons change between levels, and during winter you can play a snowball fight with other students. That kind of stuff is certainly atmospheric. Half-Blood Prince for phones is getting a Metacritic rating of 62. It's a fine way to spend an hour if you're a fan of Harry Potter, but otherwise this game might not necessarily interest you. At the moment of writing this, it's impossible to play Harry Potter spells as it was long delisted from the App Store, the only platform it was released on. From what I can gather, this game was about dueling other players by using the touchscreen as a way to cast spells, and all that was represented in a pretty abstract way. Can't say that I personally would find this engaging long term, but it's always a shame when games are lost to history. And I don't give scores to titles that are impossible to play now. As such, rest in peace, Harry Potter spells. In terms of overall quality, the Half-Blood Prince games have actually managed to fully bring the franchise back to the positive side of the equation. These titles don't reach the highs of some Chamber of Secrets games from 2002, but they're certainly nice. Now, the question remains, with the Harry Potter movie franchise getting to an end soon, will the games manage to keep this quality up? We'll find out in the next video.
Superfly!